Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Red Web Superhero Talk Show. I'm your host, Brad West, and joining me today, of course, Mr. Gregory Burrow from Dragons Art Comics and Fantasy. You can check him out on Anderson Lane here in Austin, Texas. Guess what's going on this weekend, Anna? You're supposed to say what? What?
Oh my God! What?
Greg, what's going on this weekend?
Free Comic Book Day!
Yes, we said free. I know Free Comic Book Day has been moved up from first Saturday of May this year because of COVID, etc., etc. It is going to be on August the 14th.
When it's going to be super hot here in Texas.
It's going to be crazy
It's
hot.
too hot.
So Dragon's Lair is doing a drive-through. Check with your local comic book store and see what they're doing for their Free Comic Book Day. Also, here in Austin on the 14th, we're going to be doing the Pride Parade. So Dragon's Lair will be a part of that as well.
You're going to be doing the Pride Parade. I'm not going on this year. I'm sorry.
We'll figure it out.
I ain't that proud. I'm sorry. But today we're here to talk about our Summer in Review. This is our Red Web Back to School Summer in Review Marvel Edition Part 4. We've already gone over the Disney Plus shows in our past 3 episodes. Today we're going to be talking about what happened in the comic books this year. Some of this goes back towards the beginning of the year, but a lot of it is mostly wrapping up in the summer. There's certainly more storylines to come, but right now we're going to talk about what's kind of gone on this summer, what's kicked off right now, what you can look forward to in the immediate future from Marvel Comics. And we're going to start off in space. One of the biggest things to happen in the comic books right now, of course, back in the day, Guardians of the Galaxy was a very obscure comic book. It was the future Avengers. It was set in the future. It wasn't until around 2010 that they even created the incarnation in the comic books as we know them now. But because of the movies and the popularity of the James Gunn franchise, they've blown up and they've become household names, especially Rocket and Groot. Especially Star-Lord in the comic books has stepped up his game in the comic books. You may or may not remember from the movies the Nova Corps that they encountered in the first movie. It was the Intergalactic Police Force. And in the comic book, the Nova Corps was disbanded and destroyed. And in its place, various intergalactic governments decided to hire the Guardians of the Galaxy as the new peacekeeping entity of the cosmos. And so the Guardians of the Galaxy hit it big time and start pretty much taking in every cosmic superhero that they can in Marvel Comics, from former Heralds of Galactus to both versions of 2 of the 3 versions, I should actually say, but both current versions of Quasar. I love Quasar. You've heard me talk about him. He's my favorite Avenger, and to have him back on a major team is a lot of fun. And it's just big cosmic fun and pops all over the place. There are a couple other cosmic stories that came out. I know there was a new Eternal book that's supposed to be preparing people for the Eternals movie. I'm kind of meh on Eternals, so I can't say that I've read it. And I know that Sword, which is the...
Sword had a couple of good ones.
Sword had a couple of good ones. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Sword is the alien invasion protection force version of S.H.I.E.L.D.
They tried to allude to them twice, I think, in the last movies and TV shows.
Well, WandaVision.
Yeah, WandaVision, that's
Sword.
who she works for.
She works for Sword. So,
and then also in the Spider-Man...
Then did you refer to it as Spider-Man
Didn't they try to sort of... I'm trying to remember which movie had the plot twist where you find out that Nick Fury's in space.
That was Spider-Man Far From Home, yes.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yes,
Sorry,
when he's
this is all a blur.
Correct.
Time is relative.
Time is relative. So those are most of our things in space. And we do want to talk about one of the biggest cosmic entities in Marvel Comics, Fantastic Four. Tell us your favorite storyline from this year.
Well, of course, they're doing a Fantastic Four Life Story, which, if you've read Spider-Man Life Story, which happened, I think, last year. And it was absolutely amazing.
Very good.
It's a 6-part miniseries. Same with this one. And basically, they're going back to the 60s. And
it's kind of what if they had aged in real time.
Well, not only that, it's what if the Comic Code Authority didn't exist.
Well, yeah,
and so basically it starts off with Reed Richards being recruited by President Kennedy to build a spacecraft to beat the Russians in the space race.
Right.
So it's dealing with the Cold War, it's dealing with the space race, it's dealing with a lot of the issues that were going on in the 60s. It actually has Sue Reed marching in with in solidarity with the
Suffragette movement.
no, not the suffragette.
Farther, civil rights movement.
Civil rights movement.
Civil rights. Duh.
Yeah.
It's like if we're talking about space race, civil rights movement's what it is.
Yeah, it's the civil rights movement. So, so they do a lot of these different things, and there's a lot of really amazing things that are going on in this, and it's really an interesting take on these characters because, as you said, they are actually growing and evolving, and it's really kind of hilarious because they're dealing with kind of real life issues. Like Sue gives birth to Franklin. So she can't go and superhero with them because she's at home, babies, with Franklin.
She has babies.
So it's hilarious because Reed Richards, there's a couple of times where he wins by saying, "You've caught 3 of us, but there's a 4th. And she's invisible." And so he's trying to figure out where she is. And so he's like, they win.
They fake out.
By faking out the villains, by them thinking, "Oh my God, Sue's there," and then, yeah. So, so that's pretty amazing. But it also causes a lot of strife at home because, of course, she doesn't want to be the only one stuck at home and him doing all that stuff. And so it actually causes a lot of stress with the relationship.
Is anything happening? Did anything happen of note with the Fantastic? We're going to be going over. Everybody's getting kind of their own highlight here. All of Marvel is really good about giving all their properties some kind of time in the sun. Fantastic Four. Did they have anything in main continuity really?
Unfortunately, I haven't really been reading main continuity.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to read a lot of Marvel titles so far, or a lot of DC titles for that matter. But
DC's where I'm going to have the hardest time.
But basically, I've always loved Marvel. It's just, I just don't have the money or time.
Definitely more of a Marvel. Definitely don't have money or time. So speaking of money or time, I'm going to throw this right out there with you guys.
Might as well.
We here at the Red Web are working very hard to bring you comic book news and reviews and insight, and we love your input. We love to be here for you, but unfortunately, we ain't got the moolah to be reading all these comic books.
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive. Unfortunately, it's just a product of the time. But do look forward to in the future. We're going to be working on bringing you a Patreon and such. So when that comes up, just keep your ear open and help support us and help us to be able to do some of these things and go to some of these places and talk about some of these things.
Yes. And also, feed my comic budget, please. Because I spent so much money trying to do this research.
Yeah. And then also on top of that, I was saving this. I said earlier when we were talking about this, Fantastic Four coming into the movies. But I would really love to see Fantastic Four in the 60s, right? But what I would really also love to see is the fact that I would love to see the Avenger Tower was originally the Baxter Building.
That would be fun.
And then
the
Starks took it over.
And then have Stark buy
to
it.
get all the tech on the inside.
Yeah. And if you saw our episode we were talking about last week, we were talking about how we might be, or earlier this week, how we were talking about how we might introduce the Fantastic Four. That would be the bomb.
And then they left Avengers Tower, and
don't worry, Marvel. You don't have to pay us for it. Just use the damn idea.
Yeah,
right.
But
you have the money.
You have the money.
But basically, I think it'd be really cool. They left Avenger Tower.
Yeah,
and that might be because Tony Stark knew the Fantastic Four were coming back, and that they were going to reclaim Baxter Building.
You know what? It's good. It would happen. I like it. I like it a lot.
But that would make too much sense. It's like, and also, I still hold fast that I really want these to be not necessarily older characters, not ancient characters, but still, I don't want these guys to be like teenagers.
Oh, good God, no! I do not want that.
It's like I want them to be mature adults, closer to the ages of a lot of people.
I don't want Johnny Storm to be a mature adult. I do want him to be an adult and a race car driver and a player. Maturity is not a.
Well, a lot of people have been really hoping that they actually bring Chris Evans back to be Johnny Storm, which would be freaking hilarious.
No.
Oh, he's done. No.
It would not be fun. No. It would be awful. It would be my worst fear. Like I said, we were talking about Loki, of the multiverse getting out of hand, and that's one. No. Just no. I don't want Chris Evans back as Johnny Storm.
Chris Evans doesn't want to be
I
back
don't want
as Chris
Terrence
Evans.
Howard back in this movie. I don't even care if it's
No,
like
he
a
burned
joke.
that bridge.
He burned that bridge.
He
to
burned
the
that bridge real
ground.
bad.
What?
Too
Terrence Howard?
Terrence Howard. Yeah. No, I don't
Yeah,
want
he burned
any-
that bridge. It's done.
none of that foolishness. Okay, so whatever you do, Disney, listen to this. Don't do that idea. All right, so moving on to other characters in the comic books this year, and Heroes Reborn. Oh wow. Okay, yeah. I didn't even like the first Heroes Reborn.
I read the first issue and yeah, I didn't get
It
into
didn't
it at
really
all.
feel it.
I
I didn't
didn't
feel it.
Every
like
time-
it, especially when Doctor Doom got the Ruby of Surek and became
Dr. Juggernaut.
Doctor Juggernaut. I was like,
What?
and like his knuckles have Doom on them, and I was like,
His knuckles have to know.
Yeah.
What? Really?
I was like, how cheesy can you get?
And then when he punches you, it says mood. That's how lame that is, okay?
But anyways, yeah,
I
I couldn't get
Now,
into
one
it.
that I've not been able to read Daredevil. I love Daredevil. He's my second favorite Marvel next to Spider-Man.
I've read
and,
some of that.
And tell us about the new Daredevil story. I do know the setup for this part. Daredevil.
So Daredevil was tried and convicted, and he went to prison.
And the interesting thing is it's not Matt Murdock. It's Daredevil. In fact,
Oh,
part
he,
of-
that's complicated.
even gets special compensation to continue to wear the mask in prison to protect the identity of Matt Murdock.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But Elektra takes over as Daredevil, and her costume is kicking. It is
Yeah.
amazing. It looks like a ninja costume. It's
Yeah.
freaking amazing. I love it. I thought it was very artistic, very beautiful. I mean, she's got kind of like Hakama pants things going on, tucked into tabby boots, and
And she's trying to continue on in his memory while he's gone without killing.
yeah,
You know,
and
fighting
she's
that
trying
mistake.
to earn his trust.
Trying to earn his trust.
Because but I would highly suggest picking these stories up. They're really good. I've read a couple, and I was just like, "Wow, this is awesome stuff."
I'm gonna have to read that one in collection.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading that one. I know that a lot has happened for us this summer in the X-Men comic books. This year's been a big
kinda
year
crazy.
for the X-Men. Really
Woo!
coming back in full force. Everything from
We
Sword
did a
of
whole
X and-
issue, whole
It's a
episode of
crossover episode.
Hellfire Gala.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if you hadn't gonna go to BradsRedWeb.com if you want to see like a really fun fashion review of the Hellfire Golem. We'll also give you some insight into that story. I know there's The Way of X, which was an entire series that focused on Nightcrawler and what spirituality meant in not only a world of people with extraordinary powers, but in a world where people don't die. If you had paid attention, if you had seen our
Fair.
Hellfire Gala episode, we're talking about what sets this whole thing up is the big thing for the X-Men this year is that in Way of X and everything, they are in Sword of X and all of this stuff. They have come across the resurrection protocols. They have basically have a combination of 5 mutants have the ability to combine their powers and essentially resurrect anyway. So every mutant that was ever created that ever died has come back to life, and they created their own island nation. And Nightcrawler, who was a ordained priest and he was Catholic and he was traditionally a very spiritual being, is at the center of a story that Jonathan Hickman put together, which explores. It's like, well, what is life after death when you don't die? Are you really dying? Are these people really dead? Are we those people? Are we different people altogether? Do we have souls independent of the people we were cloned for? Lots of really cool philosophical kind of deep thoughts. So
That I genuinely would like to read. I just
Yeah.
I think of all of them, that's the one that interests me the most.
Yeah, that actually sounds cool. Everything else sounds kind of like a bummer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Trial of Magneto. Did you get a chance to read Trial of Magneto?
It
or-
hadn't come out yet at all.
It
Hasn't
doesn't
come
come
out
out
yet.
until August 18th. It's
Oh.
like, which this is the thing I'm excited for. Basically, all the other ones are all the other whatever
Hellfire
the
stuff.
Excalibur.
Yeah, let's not spoil
that's the
stuff.
one.
Let's not spoil stuff, please.
No spoilers.
It's like, but basically, but it's like now this is the if you Google it, you'll see it. It's like, but basically, we have the Hellfire Gala, and something happens, and apparently they think Magneto did it, so they have a trial of Magneto. It's not a 1-for-1 repeat of the original trial of Magneto, but it all is going to culminate into somebody dies, they blame Magneto for it, and then we've got to figure that out. It's like, and that's coming out August 18th.
18th. Okay, so
So I
after
guess the next big thing we should talk about is King in Black real quick.
King in Black. So let's talk about my Spider-Verse corner of
Donny
the
Cates.
universe. Donny Cates. We love Donny Cates as a writer. Sometimes he gets a little carried away with stuff. They gave him everything. I've said this before. He became Marvel's new Brian Michael Bendis. It's he's like the hardest working guy in comics. He'll write anything you throw his way. But he really, really made his name in doing the Venom series. His Venom series just ended on issue 35, which is also roughly issue 200. We need to do a whole explanation of what Legacy Numbers is for you guys later. But the point of the story is he's in his storyline. And his big crossover into everything it started all the way back last year with Free Comic Book Day last year. Marvel's Free Comic Book Day last year was setting up the dominoes for King in Black. King in Black is the symbiotes. King of the symbiotes. Null, you get this nice little exposition backstory where the being who is from before the light in the universe felt completely poisoned by the light and created a race of beings to help snuff out the light in the universe. They turned on him and locked him in a cage on a planet far off in the cosmos. Those beings ended up becoming what are known as the Clintar, which are what became known as the symbiotes. Of course, the most famous of those being Venom on Earth, who came with Spider-Man from the Secret Wars, etc., etc., and Carnage, who's dead or not dead. I'm not sure if it's Carnage that's dead or if it's Cletus Cassidy that's dead or whatever, but somehow he gets resurrected and goes around digging up everybody on Earth who ever had a symbiote in them, because there's trace amounts of the symbiote left in their bodies and their spines. And then he goes after every human that's alive that was once a symbiote and uses those abilities to kind of reactivate the symbiotes. And basically, everybody who's ever been a symbiote on Earth is activated as a symbiote and helps him to basically call out across the cosmos to the King in Black, who comes back. And I have to admit, though, Grendel, the dragon symbiote, was actually pretty badass. That was pretty cool.
Ooh, a dragon symbiote sounds great.
And I really also did like, Venom figuring out that he could use the symbiote to shapeshift more than just changing his clothes. So he starts creating wings and fly. He learns to fly with wings. And that's kind of cool. But King Black was a good storyline, and it had a lot of crossovers. It had a really good crossover with Miles Morales, with Peter Parker. And I know you're going to tell us about your favorite crossover.
Black Hat.
Black Hat.
Ooh.
Yeah. Black Hat has been... I love the first series with Black Hat that just came out starting, I guess, last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they restarted it with King in Black with 3 issues dealing in the King in Black event.
Story.
And it was amazing. I loved it. They do some deep cuts. They actually mention stuff from way back when Marv Wolfman created Black Cat. They actually talk about her beginnings. They talk about the Doc Ock Owl War. I mean, they're talking some major stuff. They're going through her history. I love the fact that Captain America gave her an inspirational speech because she's trying to help them out.
Right.
And Captain America was like, no, get out of here. We need you to do this, this, and this. And, gives her like this motivational speech. And like, how can you say no to Captain America when he gives you a motivational speech?
Yeah.
Right.
So she ends up really saving the day in King in Black.
Nice.
And if it wasn't for Black Cat, Earth would have been destroyed by the King in Black. So
I love it.
highly
Everybody
suggest
gets a chance to shine. And Spider-Man, his story, following up at the end of the year, actually the beginning of the year, was of course The Last Remains, and continuing on from that is Nick Spencer's attempt to reconcile a lot of the sourness in fans' hearts from One More Day. And part of that is leading into the currently just started as the Sinister Wars, which I'm really excited about. And for those of you who are familiar with the Sinister Six, there's been multiple incarnations along the way. The main ones were either run by Dr. Octopus or the Vulture. Well, everything that's been happening this year has come to a head where Dr. Octopus, the Sinister Six, and Vulture Sinister Six are basically battling for supremacy over New York City, and of course Spider-Man's caught in the middle of that. So that's really cool, and that just started, I think, last week. Really interested, excited about that one.
Cool.
And Miles Morales Spider-Man has had a really fun, like I was saying earlier to everybody, I think it's a rite of passage that all Spider characters have their own little Clone Saga, even Spider-Girl Mayday Parker had her own clone April. So
That's true.
you gotta have the clones, and so
But the guy who started them all wrote
yes,
Spider-Girl,
Janet Matthews. Yes, we love Janet Matthews. I don't think he had anything to do with the Miles Clone Saga. Which
Tom DeFalco.
The Tom DeFalco, was he doing the Miles Clone Saga?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. So Miles Morales had his own little clone saga. It's actually pretty good. It's not. It's its own thing, separate from the Peter Parker ones. But basically, somebody does get a hold of Miles' DNA, creates four adult clones of him, each with some kind of a variation. I think the Mind Spinner is the coolest one of the group, as far as I'm concerned, because he's got like the extra arms. And he's very spidery, but his additional weight play. So. If you're familiar with how Miles is a variation of Peter's powers, Miles has his powers plus this special. He's got the Bioblast and the invisibility. Well, the other four clones, they have the basic spider powers, but their little tweak is something different. And the Mind Spinner, his is psionics, like mind reading and stuff like that, and illusion casting. And it's actually pretty scary, and I like him as a villain. When all is said and done, one of the ones that you'd think would be the most tragic of them, I think they call him Shift, maybe, I think is what they called him. He's supposed to have shape-shifting abilities similar to the Spider-Side character from the original Clone Saga, only his abilities are constantly in flux, so he's constantly like blobbing around and everything, and he ends up surviving and being taken, but by the end, Miles takes him home to his family and calls him brother, and it's actually very touching part of the story too. So
cool.
It's a good story. They just finished up the last of it, and I'm sure it'll be on trade paperbacks, which were too long.
And if you want us to talk about any more of these in depth, just because we know we're getting over our time, way over, just let us know. We will devote an entire episode to
We will.
these.
We'll make it happen. So
Yeah.
that's the spider end of it. Let's go to some more of the other Avengers characters. Did anybody get a chance to read the Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther?
No.
And I'm mad because I couldn't get out to Dragon's Eye when they had the signing last week.
Yeah.
I would have picked that up in a heartbeat, but...
You're talking about Evan Narcisse.
Oh, Evan Narcisse is the one who's doing Black Panther right now.
No, Evan Narcisse did Rise of the Black Panther.
Rise of the Black Panther. This is a different series.
That was a while back, but yeah. But Evan Narcisse is amazing. He also wrote the Miles Morales PS4, PS5 game.
Okay.
The story and the dialogue and everything in that.
I know Ta-Nehisi did the Captain America, the last Captain America story before it started going over into the current one, but he doesn't have anything to do with the current one. What's the current one right now? United States of Captain America. Do we remember what that's all about?
I don't.
Okay. I haven't had a chance to read it. The only thing I know about it is when we were doing our Pride episode, I kind of dug into it a little bit. And essentially, Captain America's shield gets stolen, and he goes and finds everybody else who's ever been in Captain America, which is basically Sam, Bucky, and John Walker, U.S. Agent. And they form up to create a Captain America team, and they go across the country trying to figure out where they find it. And along the way, they encounter other new Captain Americas. Each has a different shtick, and each has a different reason for being Captain America, and each one of these is exploring what it means to be a Captain America. And I know that one of them is a gay Captain America, one of them is a young black Captain America, a female black Captain America, one is a military Captain America, and one is a Native American Captain America. Cool. So that's a good story if you want to read it. I think they're in the middle of that right now, too.
Yeah. And I think the really big thing we need to talk about before we wrap up, of course, is that Venom closed out. And Donny Cates is hopping from Venom over to Incredible Hulk, and the writer of Incredible Hulk is hopping.
Ewing is taking over Venom. Yeah.
Venom. So.
Incredible Hulk is wrapping up. It's been like a 4-year run. It's about the same, about like 36, 30 some odd episodes. I think it's either got a flash issue out right now, or it's going to be out like very next issue. That's been a really critically acclaimed series. That if you just want to read something that's kind of a little bit self-contained and separate from the rest of the universe. Yes, it does have some of the crossovers in it, but ultimately it's its own thing. It's been like an amazing book. Everything I've read about it has got me. I wish I could have been keeping up with it along the way. Hulk was never my thing, so I'm looking forward to it in trades.
Very cool.
Conan the Barbarian. If you were here with us when we did our Howard Days thing, we mentioned that originally Conan was the very first licensed property at Marvel Comic Books, and it actually helped usher in the Silver Age of comics. That license eventually expired and it went away. In spite of the fact that many really cool elements of the Conan comics were kept in the Marvel comics, including the Darkhold and Shimmegorath and Doctor Strange things and stuff like that, we had the pleasure of enjoying a panel on 50 years of Conan comics, and it was talking with the estate and the publishing lawyers from the Howard estate about how it came to be that the rights for Conan reverted, temporarily at least. I don't know how long it's going to last, but the cool thing about that is Conan is back in the Marvel Comics universe proper, and even going so far as to have been part of an Avengers team, Savage Avengers, with Conan and Venom and Punisher and who else? Elektra? Who was in the Savage Avengers? So that was actually a pretty cool one if you like that kind of thing. I know a recent review I was reading found it interesting that Conan, when he was fighting Nightmare, Dr. Strange villain Nightmare, was shown his worst nightmare. And you know what his worst nightmare was? Dying peacefully. His worst nightmare was not dying violently in battle. So I find that kind of interesting too.
And since we mentioned Howard Days, I'm going to say this really quick. Do check them out online, Howard Days. I think it's .org. But every year around June 11th, they have a festival in Robert E. Howard's hometown. And it was an amazing event. And if you're a fan of Robert E. Howard's work, Conan,
Conan or any of that kind of stuff.
All Solomon Kane, Brackman Morn. I mean, all those. I mean, he had over 800 items published over the years. So
it's crazy.
Perfect.
Do go and check it out. It's going to be amazing. I know that I want to go next year. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're definitely going to make that road trip for y'all next year. So, in the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe, share, and watch. Catch us on the YouTube channel under our publisher, Kaiju Live Media. You can also go to bradsredweb.com to watch old episodes or catch the occasional live episodes that we're going to continue to do. In the meantime, check us out weekdays for our new content. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow for our last bit of the... Well, it's not Marvel, is it? So, we'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll
Take
see
care,
you tomorrow.
guys.
Bye.